The chemistry of life overview. So, recall, life requires matter and energy, and matter is anything that takes up space and has mass. Matter is made up of elements, and a compound consists of two or more elements. The elements of life are carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur, with particular emphasis on carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Atoms are the fundamental unit. All atoms of a particular element are identical. When you look at the atomic structure, the important things to remember are, of course, that the nucleus is composed of protons and neutrons, and the electrons orbit around the nucleus. The electrons are what really matters from a biological standpoint. Why? Because specifically the electrons in the outermost shell, also known as the valence shell, are the ones that participate in bonds. And that's what we really are interested in. From a big picture context, it's the bonds that form the building blocks of life. In particular, carbon is the backbone element of life because of its valence shell. It only has 4 electrons in the valence, and therefore it really wants to seek other interactions with other atoms to fill up those other 4 spots. So again, from a big picture context, chemical bonds store energy, and different bonds have different properties. Again, some bonds can be really strong and take a lot of energy to create these bonds. Some other bonds can actually require very little energy to make and can break pretty easily. So the ability for these different types of bonds will allow for the different functions of various kinds of macromolecules, which we'll talk about later. Now, another special thing besides carbon is water. And water is essential for life, and it is because of its special properties that life persists on Earth. Why is water so special? First and foremost, it's a polar molecule. So what is a polar molecule? You need to remember that. A polar molecule is one where the distributions of the electrons are not even, and thus it sets up a positive pole and a negative pole. And it's because of this polarity that it can form special bonds with one another. These hydrogen bonds can persist. And that allows for these really important features that are unique to water. They are cohesion, adhesion, high specific heat, heat of vaporization, and the fact that it floats as ice. It also ionizes, which means that it can release and accept hydrogen ions. Again, because of these essential properties, life has been able to evolve on Earth. So when you're reviewing your slides and the lecture material, the key points to keep in mind for the Chemistry of Life lecture is that you should focus on the atomic structure, specifically the valence shell of electrons, right? The chemicals of life, which elements are important for living organisms, what are the different types of chemical bonds and what their properties are, and why carbon and water are special. Happy studying.